want to thank Michelle and Lisa of the Urban League for hosting us. I have to make a comment. When I was in college, I was actually working on the renovation of this building. Later on, when I was with the Seattle Human Rights Department, we were housed here, and so it's great to be back here in a great institution that has really served as a pillar of the community in terms of change and inclusion and justice. I very much support Initiative 1000 because I think it's important that we have a society that really reflects our population, in which we have a government where the faces of government and the people of government reflect the population in which they serve, as well as educational institutions that have a diversity of faculty and students to have a more robust educational experience for all. And we know that how important education is to moving people out of poverty and changing lives forever. So it's important that we have greater opportunities in our higher education system so that people of color and veterans and women can really move up get a profession and have a better livelihood and a better future for themselves and their families. I want to make it clear that Initiative 1000 is not repealing Initiative 200, but we're simply making it clear that affirmative action, outreach, targeted outreach to women, minority groups, and veterans and disabled is allowed. And that we will benefit from that. I think there's been a lot of confusion and reluctance after the passage of Initiative 200 that somehow outreach efforts, targeted outreach efforts were not allowed. And so that's been a chilling effect, whether in government or whether in our educational institutions. And so we're not calling for any quotas. There will be no quotas. There will be no preferences. But simply targeted outreach toward targeted groups under Initiative 1000, which would be women, veterans, disabled, and people of color. I can tell you that I was a beneficiary of affirmative action in going to Yale University. Yale was looking for students from the public schools. They were looking for students from the West Coast, and they were looking for people of color. But I still had to pass the same exams. I still had to meet all the qualifications that other students were judged against. And I don't think people of color and other targeted groups want to somehow believe that they got in on a free pass, or that somehow they're less qualified. I mean, we all have pride in ourselves, but we simply want a chance. Right. We simply want a chance. And that's what Initiative 1000 will do. Make it very, very clear that affirmative action outreach, targeted outreach to groups that sometimes are not considered or passed over is specifically allowed. But there will be no quotas, no set-asides, no preferences. In fact, for instance, with government contracting, still the low bidder will get the contract. But we want to make sure that in the state of Washington, for instance, under state programs or city contracts and city jobs, that there's outreach, targeted outreach toward groups so that they can apply, so they can bid for this work. They're still going to have to pass the muster. Still going to have to meet the qualifications in order to earn either a job or get the government contract. But we need to make it clear and erase some of the ambiguity and the reluctance among government officials and government institutions to make it very clear that targeted outreach to these groups is permissible. That's what Initiative 1000 does. That's why I'm strongly in support of it.